Welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Lily Newman, and this is my co-host Susan Solomon, Executive Director of Drug Crisis in Our Backyard. And today's guests are Carol Christiansen, Principal Broker and Partner of Café Realty, and Don Rizzo, President of Sun Mortgage. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here.
It's so nice to have you here. This is kind of a different type of show for us, but as Lillian will tell the audience why we thought it would be a great idea to have you guys on.
Oh, you know what? Buying a home is the American dream, to have a home. And how do you go about doing that? What do you need to prepare yourself to buy a home? I mean, you can look in the paper, get an app, and say, I want that. But there has to be steps you have to take. And what do you do?
Well, buying a home could be extremely daunting to most people, especially the first-time home buyer. And I would suggest that the first-time home buyer first find a realtor that they could trust. Ask your friends, ask your family, who have they used recently. Interview 2 or 3 realtors, find out who you like, know, and trust. And you could get some references from them also. But you want a realtor who communicates with you and can help you and be your guide to this whole thing.
Right.
And the realtor would have a team of people that they work with of resources. And one of the resources they would have would be an excellent mortgage lender, like Don Rizzo. And that's who you would recommend really good lenders, because of people that clients you had in the past who they've used, and they've told you they were extremely happy with them. So that's why you recommend them. So once they speak to the lender, and they get their pre-approval, then we could start the process of looking for a home.
But isn't there, when you go for the mortgage, isn't there things you need to have to be prepared? What questions should someone ask?
Actually, the best thing to do is to start with a mortgage broker after you meet your realtor. Again, it's very good to use referrals from people who've had successful experiences. There is a huge spectrum of talent and ability within the mortgage industry, as in the real estate industry. And working with somebody who really knows the process from the beginning to end and can conceptualize how all the different pieces are coming together, and what I like to call do a lot of downfield blocking. The process typically starts with filling out an application, which can be pretty simple, but it's important that a client or a borrower be forthcoming and accurate. And we sit down with them, we go over their income, their assets, their credit, and we determine what their particular financial situation can afford. And then we report back to the realtor, typically with a pre-qualification letter that they can use, and then reliably go out and shop. Most offers these days will require that you come with a written pre-approval or pre-qualification letter from a broker. Otherwise, I don't even think the sellers will entertain an offer without one.
Now, why is that? Sorry, Sue. Why? Because I see that when I go on the apps, everyone says, like, you're right, you have to have that pre-qualified or pre-approval letter. They won't see
because
you.
How do you know they could afford this home? They could be looking at a home that's $500,000, but they really could only afford $400,000. So before we present as a professional, before you present an offer to the seller, you don't want to waste anybody's time. You want to have the correct information that your clients can afford this home. Right.
Yeah. So now, once you get that letter, pre-qualification letter, does that help you get your mortgage? I mean, is that the mortgage?
It's not a mortgage. It's one professional's opinion about what you can afford. And the more reliable the person is that you're working with, the more reliable that document is. And if you go to some of these push-button get mortgage applications and you enter your income in as $100,000, but then I talk with you and I realize you may think your income's $100,000, but the mortgage industry is only going to give you credit for $75,000. All of a sudden, everything that approval is based on is false, and it's not valid or reliable. So again, it's really important to come to somebody who knows what they're doing, who does the research and asks the questions, and in many cases makes the process a little uncomfortable because you have to give your tax returns, your pay stubs, your W-2s, your bank statements, and run your credit. And on the credit front, many people are apprehensive about having their credit run. And Credit Karma has done a remarkable job of scaring people to death about the effects of running your credit. And from a mortgage company, the effects are minimal and they're temporary. And if you do talk to multiple lenders within a short period of time, those subsequent credit pulls actually don't affect your credit. The credit industry realizes that running multiple credit pulls through different mortgage companies is actually a responsible behavior, not an irresponsible one. So they don't ding you for those.
So after you get the letter, then you have to go to the bank and get a mortgage. Do you have to supply all that information again?
Well, you can answer that question.
Typically, no. Much of the documentation we use from the pre-approval process. However, if it's been a few months before you actually get your acceptable offer, updated pay stubs and bank statements are typically necessary.
So aren't there programs out there, because there's, I don't know, like FHA, Fannie Mae, first-time home buyers, housing counseling. So where does a person start with that stuff?
So part of the process of the mortgage professional is once they have that application and they've reviewed their income and asset documentation, you target the loan towards the most appropriate product. There are wonderful loans out there for veterans with no money down. If you happen to be a disabled veteran, you can borrow 100% at a very, very low rate and pay absolutely no mortgage insurance, which is incredible. There's the FHA program with as little as 3.5% down. Typically, the FHA loans are beneficial to those with credit scores under 700. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have Home Ready and Home Possible, which are 3% down programs. They tend to fit better for people who have credit scores over 700. And then there's normal 5 and 10% down loans. And to be honest with you, these loans are not hard to get. As long as you meet the minimum criteria for income, assets, credit, and the house, you will get approved. Okay, and many people are intimidated or afraid. They shouldn't be. Call a mortgage professional. We're here to help you.
So Carol, let me ask you a question, because this is kind of something that just recently happened. If someone is selling their house and the appraisal doesn't come in at the offered price,
Correct.
what does that mean?
Okay, what does that mean is that if the house, we have the accepted, that just happened in two recent deals that I had.
Okay.
So the accepted offer was $500,000. However, the appraisal came in at $480,000.
Okay.
All right, so now with that said, what we do as realtors, because we want to make this deal work, we want to work with the sellers because they want to sell their home, the buyers want to buy the home, and we will see if these buyers are able to meet in the middle at $490. Can they come up with, would you say, another $10,000 that they have to come up with out of pocket to meet at $490? And will the sellers take the $490, which they really have to, because even if they say, well, I'm not going to take this deal, the next appraisal is going to be $480 anyway.
So that doesn't have anything to do with the down payment, though? What if people are putting down, like, 25%?
Doesn't matter.
In that situation, you could probably still purchase the house for the $500,000, get the same loan amount that they were originally going to get. It would not affect the transaction at all.
Okay, it would you just move some of that down payment
towards.
right? And so your down payment would be lower, but the down payment would be lower or
Larger.
because you take some of the money out and put it towards that differential.
The bank ultimately comes down to the financing.
Right.
The bank is going to calculate their debt to income ratio based on the lower of the appraisal or the sale price. And in that particular situation, it came out lower, but if you were putting 25% down, the numbers would probably work. Many sellers prefer to have 20% down so that if something like this happens, you can deal with it. To be honest with you, there are circumstances where an appraisal can come in lower and we can use mortgage insurance, a one-time premium, to pay for the same loan with the same purchase price and keep the transaction the same, and maybe only pay a couple $1,000s in mortgage insurance premium. It's really a tremendous, tremendous tool.
Yes, there's so many different avenues that you could take, but having a knowledgeable professional guide you. If it's an agent who doesn't really know this, or a loan officer who doesn't really know this, they're just going to say, oh, well, sorry, you can't buy the house, or oh, well, this. But once you have experience and knowledge, then you know this. That's why you have to have a team who work with you. You need an attorney who works with you. You need a team. You need an inspector, who works for the buyer but doesn't scare the buyer and works with everybody. So it's very important to have that.
So,
You
go ahead.
I want to ask her about the market. Okay,
Okay, go right ahead.
So you sell in Westchester and Putnam mostly?
correct.
Okay, and also you work in Westchester and Putnam mostly?
Actually, I'm licensed in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
My
All right.
area is much larger because I don't need to physically go to the
Exactly.
properties.
All right, so how's the market in Westchester? What's going on?
Okay, the market is extremely local. So what could be happening in Somers, New York, or Mayapack, New York, may not be happening in Chappaqua. However, we're in a stable market right this minute. It's not a buyer's market and it's not a seller's market. Inventory was extremely low a year and a half ago, so that with inventory low, that makes it a buyer's market because there's a seller's market rather. Makes it a seller's market because there's not that many houses for the buyer to purchase.
So that means the prices could be a little higher.
Yes, so
Right,
the prices
okay.
could be a little supply and demand.
Right, got it.
So with that said, we have more homes, inventory has gone up, so we have more homes on the market. It's not, things are still selling very quickly if it's priced right. It's all about pricing. It's not location
Right.
anymore. It's price, condition, and then location.
Oh,
'Cause,
interesting.
yes, it truly is. And if the house is priced right and it's market value, the house will sell very quickly. If it's overpriced, the house will not sell because it's overpriced, and people have to see value to purchase. Like, why would you purchase something unless you see value to it? But we're still in a very good market. I don't see it changing. The $2 million and above market is sitting there. That's a whole different market. The luxury market is
Right.
a little bit different. But a $400,000 house in Mayapack is going to fly off the market. $800,000 in Mayapack may be sitting there because it's not the market for that. There's not that many luxury homes that you would say in Mayapack.
Right.
That people would go in there. And taxes do play a part in it also, what the taxes are.
Yes, absolutely. So how has the new tax law affected the real estate in Westchester? Because they could only take $10,000.
I know, I haven't seen it affect anybody as yet. How about you, Don?
I don't think it's affected as much as people feared. I think there was an initial hesitation
Right.
to sort of see what was what. But people need to own houses. You need a place to live. So the fact that you can't write off as much as you used to is not going to stop that need.
No,
so
it's not.
people have still been buying, and it's been a pretty robust market ever since that was announced.
So what is involved, because the closing costs, and what is that?
That's a loan officer question.
That's for me. Closing costs are an interesting category. I actually like to define them as transaction costs. You've got closing costs, which are the one-time expense of buying the house and getting the mortgage. And then you've got prepaid items, which are ongoing costs of owning the house that you happen to pay at the closing. And usually it's about 50-50 between those two expenses. Closing costs include the appraisal, the credit report, the bank attorney, the recording and filing of the mortgage. If you're in New York State, New York State mortgage tax. The prepaid items include your real estate taxes, homeowners insurance, and mortgage interest. And between those two, collectively, they are the closing costs. And very often I get asked, well, about what percentage are closing costs?
Right.
And it's not that easy. It really depends on the price of the house, the loan amount, and how much the taxes are, to be honest with you. But
Why?
because if you end up having to pay half a year's worth of real estate
I
taxes,
didn't know that you
on
have
the-
to pay 6
do.
months up front.
and in some instances,
Okay.
almost a year.
Yeah, right, correct.
But then so it's just paid. It's
So it's just
prepaid
paid.
or whatever.
Okay,
Right,
it's prepaid.
exactly.
Got
But
it.
what about the title insurance? It's really expensive.
Right. Okay. So the process is this. You find a realtor, you have your loan, your pre-approval, you have your realtor, we start looking for the process for a home. We find a home, we put in an offer, we negotiate, we get an accepted offer. With that accepted offer, within 72 hours, this buyer has to schedule their inspections. So the buyer has the inspection cost. It could be anywhere from $400 to $700, again, depending on the size of the home. It could be $2,000 if it's 10,000 square foot home. but the average home is about 500,000 or 600,000. So the buyer has that cost. Then once everything is fine with the inspection and everything is clear, there isn't any issues, then we do a memorandum of agreement that goes to the attorney, both attorneys, the buyer's attorney and the seller's attorney.
Okay.
So the listing agent, if I'm the listing agent, I make up the memorandum of agreement. The attorneys draw up the contract from the information that I send them. Then the buyer gets the contracts, the buyer's attorney, they come in, review it with their attorney, bring the deposit down. That deposit gets sent to the seller's attorney, and that goes into escrow. The seller comes in and they sign. So now we have fully executed contracts on both sides. The buyer's signs, the seller signs. So now once they have that, the buyer's attorney orders the title insurance. And the loan officer gets the contract also, and they order the appraisal.
Okay.
All right. So the buyer now has the cost of their buyer's attorney, which could be $1,400 plus minors, the title cost, and the appraisal. The seller at this point doesn't have any cost. And their cost will be transfer tax, which if it's a $400,000 house, it would be $1,600 New York State transfer tax. They'd also have the seller's attorney cost, again, $1,500 minus and plus. So right now, that's only the cost that the seller has.
Okay.
And the real estate commission.
The real estate
And
commission.
the
You
real
don't want to
estate
forget that.
Let's not forget that. And if you're in Westchester County and you have a well, it's up to the seller to have the well tested.
It's up to
And
the
that could
seller
be-
has to do that.
The seller has to do
Okay.
that, and that could be about $600 also.
The seller has to do that.
Yes. So
But in Putnam, it's the
no,
it's up.
in Dutchess, there's certain cities and towns in Dutchess that require it, not all Dutchess.
Okay.
But all of Westchester does require that if you have a well.
All right. All right.
Good to know. Right.
Yes. So
Just one added part about title insurance that's interesting. It's the only insurance that insures past events instead of future events.
Correct.
It's ensuring that title was properly cleared and transferred over time in the past. It doesn't insure you for the future. Just interesting tidbit.
It
okay.
is, and what's important about having title insurance is that you can't purchase unless you have clear title.
Right.
And that has to be cleared. And sometimes if there isn't a chain of events going back of who owns this property, it could take a couple of years maybe to clear title.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so we always put, as realtors, we always put into the memorandum of agreements that the offer, the contingencies on clear title
Got
and
it.
appraisal and mortgage approval.
Right. Okay. All right.
It's a lot to do.
Yeah. So now I just bought something in Florida, and the closing costs down there are like practically nothing. Why is that?
Because it's not an attorney state. Same thing in Pennsylvania, because we
Okay.
have clients in Pennsylvania and in Florida, and they say we closed in 3 weeks. Why is it taking 2 months up there to close?
And
why
it's
is
cheap.
And it's cheap.
Why? Why is that?
I don't really know. Why is that? Do you know?
Well, in New York, we have New York State mortgage tax, which is 1% of the amount that you borrow.
Which
We
is
have
a
an
lot.
attorney that represents the bank in
Right.
this area, which is an additional fee. And title insurance is more expensive in New York.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
you
the
have an
title
attorney for the
closer-
bank,
right.
too.
Yeah, you have the bank attorney, the buyer's attorney, the seller's
Seller's
attorney,
attorney.
the title insurance. And as far as I could see as a realtor, I don't think this is going away in New York State at all.
No.
No.
And the bank pays, you don't have to pay the bank attorney. You just pay for your attorney.
The buyer pays the
buyer
bank's
pays
attorney
the
if they
bank.
have a mortgage.
Buyer pays the bank attorney and their attorney?
Yes.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the buyer pays almost everything in
It
closing.
sounds like it.
Yep, yep. That's why
Yep,
that was
yep, yep.
pretty interesting about the Florida properties not having all those extra fees.
There are rare circumstances where the closing costs that the buyer would be paying can be negotiated into the price of the home and paid by the seller. It's not terribly common, and in this market that we're experiencing right now,
it's not.
very few sellers or realtors will accept those conditions or terms. But it does sometimes happen.
Because I also have been seeing that it says buyer will pay that transfer tax.
That's usually on a foreclosed house.
Otherwise, the seller has to pay it, right? So now, how about the rental market? How's that?
Rentals go. Rentals, yes. If you have a rental property, 2 or 4 family house, and you have rentals, yes, everybody's always looking for rentals.
So
Yes,
how,
it's
what
a-
it like? What is a Do you have any numbers on that? Like a two-bedroom and let's say.
It's location.
Right.
So if you were in Somers and there was a rental up at Heritage Hills, 2 bedrooms would probably be $2,400 to $2,800.
Okay.
If you were in Yorktown, it'd be probably close to the same, maybe $2,200. If you're in Mayapack, maybe $2,000 to $2,400.
Okay.
And it depends on the condition and the location. Are you close to transportation? The closer you are to transportation, the more you'll be able to get in your rents. Because everybody's, they want to be close to the train, they want to be close to the highway. But rentals is always has been a wonderful rental market.
Yeah.
That's never really changed.
That's why the 2 and 4 families just fly off the market.
They do. We have several clients that are looking for 2 and 4 family houses all over, and they put an offer in, and there's multiple offers on it.
Yeah.
So buying a home is still the thing to do, even at these prices.
And if there's statistics, and you could probably agree with this, from the Depression from the 1930s to the 2009 and to today, houses still went up.
That's right.
Yeah.
We had a depression. We had a depression in the 50s, and I don't know if a lot of people here remember '87. I remember '87.
I remember
Houses went down 30%. People don't seem to remember that. Then we had the .com bust,
Right.
and then 2009, which was really bad. 2009, the financial and real estate was really. I wish I had money at that point. And you feel bad for the people who are, and they're still underwater. There's a house that's being sold. She bought it for $1.3 million in 2006, just as the height of the market was just starting to turn. And she's in contract, and I don't know what the sale price is because it's only in contract, but it's $795.
Wow.
Yeah, and you see a lot of that still.
Yeah, I bet.
They bought it when it was really high.
I just sold a house. We closed on it last week, and it was $1,575,000. That was the sale price. But the people who bought it, they bought it for $2 million. They bought it for $2 million.
So they bought it for more.
They bought it in 2000.
Oh, the seller.
The seller bought it.
Right.
Seller bought it
lost
for
money.
2003.
Yeah,
2.3,
right.
and they sold it for 1.5.
Right.
Wow, they lost 800,000.
Yeah, so you still see a lot of that.
Oh
There's
my
that.
God.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and so you confident that the market is pretty stable right now?
Yes.
That we're not going to be, there's no bubble here?
I don't see it happening. How about you?
I don't see it either, but as you were talking about historically, the value of properties, if you take a look at the availability of mortgage financing, every time there was new and easier and more lax financing, real estate values increased. And the most dramatic example of the opposite of that was in 2008 when mortgage loans, all of the subprime loans disappeared and mortgage loan underwriting became far more restrictive, values plummeted. And then that turned into a problem for people who couldn't sell because they were underwater, their mortgage exceeded the value of their home, and it was a very, very difficult time for real estate. And it's literally taken us 9-10 years to come out
but
of
we're
it.
still not out of it. We're getting better, but we're still not out of it.
Yeah.
It's,
So now I hear that, I don't know if this is true, or that millennials, they don't want to own homes.
well, I have just the opposite. The millennials are the people who are buying the homes now.
Okay.
But they want move-in condition. They're not doing anything. They want to be by the railroad.
Okay.
Yes, so they're going to be, I have the statistic right here. Actually, I believe they're going to be 37% of the buyers.
Wow.
And then the Gen Xers, I think, is 20-something%, and then the baby boomers are 17%.
Buying houses?
Buying and-
Houses?
Even now,
They are.
baby
Sure.
boomers.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. In the next year,
condos.
millennials will lead the way in the number of mortgages, account of 45% of
Wow.
the market, followed by the Gen Xers, 37%, and the baby boomers, 17%.
You have to realize you have about a 10-year backlog of people aging,
Yeah.
finally marrying. Millennials do tend to marry later than we all did and have families later.
Okay.
But it does happen, and at some point when they're
Keep
in
your
the
fingers
basement,
crossed.
Me too.
We're keeping our
That's
fingers
it.
crossed, Don.
At least
Me
you
too.
have 1 out of 3 that's married.
but eventually they have to move out. They have to
Right.
fledge. So
They have to
Yeah,
move
and
out
this-
of their
and
apartment.
I think
Right.
that's part of what's happening right now is that these young families and young couples are finally feeling comfortable moving.
Moving, and that's what you were saying was true 2, 3, 4 years ago, but now it's just the opposite. They are moving. The people in Brooklyn, they're just moving up the Hudson, and
Right.
they're just buying like crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that because the rents are becoming unaffordable? And
Very
they're
true.
saying,
Very
forget
true.
it, let's
Right.
just buy
Yes.
something?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Many
Where are
people.
they buying?
They're buying along the Hudson. They're buying in Beacon. They're buying in Hudson.
Okay,
They're
Hudson,
buying. They're
wow.
buying the ones who make more money are buying in Haston, and Yonkers is a big
Yonkers,
turnover
okay.
also.
Absolutely.
And Irvington along the Hudson line. They're buying them more so than the Harmon line over here.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And what
Sorry,
I was
I
go-
interrupted.
no, it's fine, fine. What I was going to say is, I talk to many people who want to buy a house, and they are just really bothered by paying rent. And they get nothing for it. There's no
Right.
equity. There's
Nothing.
They just feel very resentful and frustrated with being renters. So they are very interested in buying.
And I think it's also because people don't realize that they should just give someone a call, reputable, and get the numbers down on paper to
So
see
why
what
don't you
they
give
can.
your contact information?
Please,
We know
please.
you're very reputable.
Yes,
You have
Thank you so
absolutely.
much.
very, just an enormous background and experience in real estate. So why don't you give your contact information out again? Tell the audience.
Okay. Thank you. Hi.
And before, I want to
Yeah.
second that you're amazing. A very reputable
Thank
realtor.
you. Okay, hi, it's Carol Christiansen. The company is Café Realty. The office number is 914-666-7792. And if you call the office and nobody's there, it goes directly to my cell number, so I'm always connected.
And Don,
Yes,
why don't you
thank
give
you.
them your information?
Sure. My name's Don Rizzo. I am the president and founder of Sun Mortgage, founded in 1996. My office phone number is 914-736-2889. My email is donrizzo@sunmortgage.com. And you can also check out my website, which is sunmortgage.com.
And we have all your information, contact
That's
information
great.
on
Terrific.
the graphics. Thank you very,
Thanks for all
very
your
much.
information. It was
Went
very
fast.
informative. Really.
Thanks for having
Great.
us.
Yes,
Great.
we really
Thank
Enjoyed the
appreciate
opportunity.
it. Thank you. It is
Yeah.
a great
Yes.
opportunity.
Well, people need to know
They
how to
do.
do this. This is
Yeah.
something that a lot of people don't really know how to do. The whole.
The whole process. And like I
Process.
say, it can be very daunting.
Yeah.
It can be
Absolutely.
daunting, but if you drive around the community and you see all of these houses throughout.